Our Board of Education meeting now at 2:08 p.m. While we wait for Tim Miller to come, we will move to the operating budget.
You can leave that.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Right, yeah. I'll write 2 minutes.
Because we'll be about.
Yes.
Apologize, it's not, I'm gonna leave.
You're fine, you're fine.
Well, good afternoon. Feels like we were just here less than 2 weeks ago. So tonight, this afternoon for our operating budget work session for fiscal 2018, we're going to review the what's been happening in Annapolis, the 2017 legislative session. As you're all aware, some of the most recent happenings have really affected our revenue. We'll also review the revised estimated fiscal 2018 unrestricted revenue as we are estimating now with current information, as well as the 2018 budget reduction scenario that the superintendent is proposing. So in terms of the legislative session, we still have a little bit to go before it closes. However, a week ago Sunday, Governor Hogan introduced a second supplementary budget, which included funding for House Bill 684. So that effectively funded that stopgap amount that we previously discussed in budget work sessions. Now, the way that bill was actually crafted was 2 ways. One was an itemized list of the counties and how much funding, supplemental funding, they would receive. The other portion was a formula-driven amount. And I had made Mrs. Baker aware that it was a very real possibility that we would receive the formula-driven amount, and that is, in fact, what we received. What we are looking to receive. Now on, I believe it was Friday, both the House and the Senate approved the bill. So with the governor approving or presenting the supplementary budget to fund it, and then the approval, it looks like we will be getting the supplemental $456,000. Last year, if you recall, that was $1.3 million. So it's not even half of what we got last year. However, we still will be receiving additional funding. So what that looks like for our tables that we've been working with are that our estimated revenue now is looking more like down 1.1%. It was around 2%. So that is better. Now these estimated revenues that I'm showing here are all in. It includes the state, it includes county, and then any of the additional funding. Now the expenditures have not changed. This is the superintendent's recommended budget that we started going over back in February. However, now we're looking at $1.5 million estimated gap. So that's better news. However, it's still $1.5 million that is not available right now. So Mrs. Baker has revised a possible reduction scenario to meet a balanced budget, balanced expenditures to estimated revenue. So, do you want to do this?
Yeah,
Before I
we
get-
could, right, that'd probably be a great time to do that. Welcome.
Thank you, my apologies.
Quite all right.
What's going on? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll pause Ms. Schweitzer's presentation in the budget, and we'll go back, and we have with us Tim Miller, clerk of the court. Thank you for coming, and he is here to administer the oath of office to our newest board member. I'll turn it over to.
Should I go right here?
Yeah, you're fine. Just need to raise your right hand. You do affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof, and that you will, to the best of your skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of member of the Garrett County Board of Education according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
I do.
Signature.
If you want to do a recap.
Yeah.
It's like that time of that. That's not about that.
You don't know?
You don't know?
It's online. Jim Morris is not back yet.
Thank you.
So
Do you mind doing that real quick?
That's
fine, that's fine. We're really putting you through the new aren't we? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I'm back.
I believe we're going to go ahead. Do you want to go ahead with the election of officers as
can.
well? I think we'll go ahead
Okay.
with that.
And then we'll go back to the budget. So I have a nomination for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Matthew Paul.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
No discussion.
Opposed?
Mind what basket.
Motion passed. The vice president is Matt Paul.
Did we already vote?
I assume you. So you, I'm going to move the,
So do I.
I think so.
Oh, I think
Brandon's gonna stay there.
Brandon's gonna stay there to help her with the
Whichever you want.
parliamentary procedures.
Oh, yes.
Hadn't you said that?
Well, but Mac knows it too. I guess we can talk about that after a while. We'll go ahead and move on to the budget.
You're back on.
Okay, so in this table, we have a revised reduction scenario that Mrs. Baker is proposing should we land on a balanced budget. So previously, we had recommended eliminating the IT rotation cycle. However, with the $456,000, we would like to put that back in to our budget, knowing that it most readily affects students and teachers in the classroom. We've discussed the IT rotation schedule or cycle for some time, and Dr. Storber, we have not previously had one where in the past the funding for IT devices has really sort of been piecemealed together with grant funding or carryover, and this is the first year that Mr. Gank and myself have actually put a placeholder in the budget to allocate those devices equitably across the system. So we are proposing to continue with the $30,000 cut from professional development. With maintenance and operations, we are proposing to add back the $195,050 of priority 1B projects that were previously in reduction scenario 2. So that would leave the $615,000 projects off the table at this time. It is our belief that the system-wide 11 positions right sizing is necessary. It was a very difficult decision to decide that that's what we felt we needed to do. However, knowing our future enrollment projections, as well as the fact that last year the supplemental grant was 1.3 and this year it's 456,000, it's in our best interest to do everything we can to right-size our staff if we can. Obviously, it's through attrition, either retirement, or if there are other situations that arise. So that placeholder did not change. Then system-wide participation in state meetings and conferences, we added back some of that, and then also transportation. The actual PowerPoint on board docs has bus contractors and field trips. This morning during our cabinet meeting, we decided that field trips would be fine. We were going to try to figure out a way to cut the $50,000 from bus contractors only. So that field trip line, as long as we can preserve it, will stay the same, and that also includes athletic trips as well. So that brings us to $1.5 million, so a zero remaining gap. And you all know that my hope for this evening was to have the budget worksheets ready to go. However, after last month's meeting, not exactly knowing the county's willingness to fund above maintenance of effort, it was difficult to work through those worksheets not knowing the end estimated expenditure number. So the cabinet team, as well as Mrs. Baker, hope to have that direction this evening. And then the plan will be to have the budget worksheets ready for the board for the next meeting, for the May meeting.
Right, and the additional funding from the governor also made it difficult to get the budget sheets complete as well.
Yes, because that.
And that was just
Right.
last week.
Yes,
So
it was Sunday that the press release went out, and Monday that the details were available.
Could you refresh me, the in maintenance operations, either of you, as to what we're retaining again with that?
Yes.
We put some things back on the table.
Yes, we put some of the paving. There was $25,000 worth of paving. It's a placeholder for ongoing paving. The agriculture barn at Northern High School, $58,900 there. There is a security project at Accident Elementary for doors, or $24,000. Parking lot lights at between Broadford and Southern Middle. That whole parking lot is $22,000. And then this also allows us to put back into furniture and fixtures $57,000, which is the replacement cycle that Mr. Swift has developed for desks and chairs. So that was all of the scenario, or all of the priority 1B projects from the maintenance, the full master sheet.
And as we did at previous meetings, many of the cabinet members are here for you to ask if you have additional specific questions. And I appreciate them being here as well.
Can I ask a question, please? Oh, sorry. I haven't had a chance to, I haven't been privy to everything, so please, there's something I haven't seen. But the 11 positions that are being not filled through attrition, what functional areas are these in? Are these instruction positions, administrative positions
All of
across
the
the
above.
system?
They're across the system. We've worked diligently as a cabinet to look at ways, both in the central office and out in the schools, as well as support services. So it's not all instruction or all administration.
Have those positions been made available to us, or do we know the exact
We
positions
have an
in what areas?
estimate. We have an estimate of. We know who will be retiring, due to irrevocable letters of intent that we received as of the end of January, and the cabinet team has been working on ideas of who exactly or what we can do with that. So.
do we get more specificity on that before the budget?
We can do that in executive session.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So again, the priority 1Bs are the ones that we put back on or we took off, just to make sure
We put back
we
in.
put back in. So
Yes.
Okay. And you said that was all of them we were able to put back in, correct? That's listed on our sheet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Was there discussions, and it's maybe for you, Mr. Swift, was there discussions about, reading some notes, I think, about working with the county to have the paving done rather than us contracting the paving?
That's included in this. The county does do the paving. We pay the material. They provide the equipment and the labor.
So they're actually.
That's
They
what-
are a partner
yeah,
with
that's
us,
what
yes.
this is.
Right, good.
Does anyone else have any further questions for Allison or any of the cabinet that they can think of?
If I might just
Yes.
update Mr. Sorber, Dr. Sorber, on the, when we talk about cabinet members. The cabinet includes the instructional directors and the administrative directors. So it encompasses Mr. Gank, who is our instructional technology, Mr. Wazlowski in transportation, Mr. Swift in maintenance, Dr. Wildison in HR, Ms. Proudfoot in elementary, and then Mr. Edwards in secondary as well. And we meet every other week. We've been working through this budget since December, but when Ms. Schweitzer references cabinet, that's who that encompasses.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to discuss the meeting?
We're gonna see Mr. Payroll too. Did you see that in April 1st? I see in April 1st in the Cumberland Times News, it says Hogan signs financial stabilization teacher retirement plans. It looks like it'll be just a 1-year suspension of what we pay on teacher pension funds, but it says it will not take effect until the fiscal year 2020. Do you know anything on that?
Right. Yes, and there's a lot of pieces to that that legislation. It's going to be a percentage of an amount, but the reason that that's come about is because when the legislature pushed back the funding of the state retirement to the LEA, to the local school board, what they had estimated in the coming years, the actual amount has been much higher than what they estimated. So the legislature is attempting to find ways to lessen that burden on the Board of Ed. Now, there's also a piece that actually just went through on Friday that is appears that it may lessen our last quarterly payment of fiscal 17. However, the amount, I'm still waiting to hear the specific amount on that. It's not going to be as much as what it's increased. So we're looking between $80,000 and $130,000 for the annual. However, our state, our pay into the Maryland State pension system is over $1.1 million currently. And that's only for the teachers. That's not the admin fee. It's not any of the administrators. So yes, that's coming, but 2020 is a long way away. And if that legislature actually sticks, if you will, I'm not sure that it'll look the same. The piece that just went through on Friday is House Bill 1109, and that is the one that does seem more promising. And, but again, that came Friday afternoon, and I have questions that are unanswered on exactly how that's going to affect the ending of fiscal 17. Now, that does not affect fiscal 18 at all, unless the governor funds it. So it would go through the legislature, but unless Governor Hogan releases the funds, it won't take effect. Much like Mr. Swift, was it QZAB or Aging Schools last fiscal year that did not get funded?
Aging schools.
So it was Aging Schools. So even though Aging Schools was legislature that was approved, because Governor Hogan fenced off those funds, if you will, the projects didn't actually get funded. So that's a similar situation with the state pension.
Yeah, I seen it in the paper and I thought, well, I'll ask. And then I got something from the State Board of Education. I'm sure you got the notification too about the Maryland Association Board of Education, the dues. They've increased a little bit. Yes. Okay. And then one more item. I had met last week with Commissioner Paul Edwards as requested. And he said from numerous conversations he had had with other commissioners that there's a possibility that they would fund some capital projects to send over. He said capital projects that we don't have in the CIP. He said some different capital projects they would be possibly willing to fund for us. And he said, again, the capital would be not non-reoccurring costs, but capital projects.
Well, if I may suggest,
Yes.
I sent an email via Mrs. Baker.
Okay.
That outlined the some non-recurring projects
Okay.
in and Dr. Sorber, you do have this document. It was categorized by safety and security, efficiency, and then the remaining 1B. Now, obviously, the remaining, this was prior to Governor Hogan's press release. So the 1B would be included here.
Right.
But the safety and security, some of those projects are not included in the 1B.
And this was a paper that you'd sent to us?
It was an attachment
Okay.
via an email
I'm sure I have it right here.
on Wednesday, the 22nd, I believe.
Excuse me, when you say 1B, that means budget scenario 1. So just
Yes.
budget.
Yes, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yes. Mr. Swift creates and updates with finance a master schedule of all the projects, and we prioritize them that way. So within that, for safety and security, the first one with the Accent Elementary doors would be included in the 1B. Would you all like me to make a copy of this? Or do you all?
We're
We have it.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just get yours right there.
Okay. So the first project for $24,000 is already included. The concrete pads that are being requested by the state fire marshal are $15,000. The lighting is already included, the 22. There's also the LED fixtures at Friendsville, the DVR devices at Grantsville, the Southern High project for DVR security at the stadium, the Southern Middle School outside gym doors replacement is the other larger project that was not included in 1B that's here.
You're saying those things were not included?
Not included in 1B. So, let me add that up.
So the 615,000 had priority 1B, I wrote added back, but it didn't have everything added back.
The 1B here is only 195,050 is what we've added back into the budget. The 615,000 is still not being included in the expenditures.
But if I may, I think if you look at the document on the priority 1B, all three of those, there are three projects there, all three of them were added back in. The FFA barn at Northern for 58.9, the cafeteria tables for 8,150, and the classroom, the furniture replacement cycle at 57. All three of those.
I'm sorry, I thought we
projects.
were going over safety and security.
Yeah.
And we were pulling out the 1Bs from safety.
But all three of these 1Bs
Yes.
have been added back
Yes.
in. Okay.
With-
I think, does that answers your question, correct?
Yes. Now, I didn't know we were doing it under the security side.
Okay.
Did you get this? No, that's, here's where we're going to be. Okay, that's all.
So under the 10 items for safety and security, now that I have the document in front of me, we said how many of them was not in the budget?
I'm adding up the total
Okay.
amount for you.
This document to see where they are.
So that would be $65,950 under safety and security. That would be taking out the first line item of accident elementary replace exterior doors for $24,000, and then also the Broadford and Southern Middle LED light fixture project for $22,000. So then the next category is the efficiency with potential savings. And those projects include a lot of the tie-in to Medisys, which is the system we use to remotely monitor the environment in all of the schools, as well as the VoIP project. The VoIP project, Dr. Sorber, is an initiative that it has been initiated by Mr. Gank with IT, but also with Mr. Swift in facilities and maintenance, where we are cutting ties with Verizon and installing internet. Is that true? Internet voice over telephones. So there's significant savings, and it's ongoing savings, obviously. So those projects are in the next group down. And unfortunately, none of those projects are in the scenario 1B, 195,000 that we were added back in. So.
And you'll present to us some ideas for capital items that are not in the CIP soon?
Well, I think that's what this is.
They're on this list.
Yeah, but I'm saying, obviously, we can't do the whole list.
Yeah, the budget, the worksheet that you had that had the 1A, Bs, and Cs, in the far right column, it has, the second to the last column, it has CIP. Those are some of the items that could be included in the CIP.
Oh, Mr. Swift, they do not have that.
I don't think we have that.
Their master doesn't have the CIP.
Oh, it doesn't have that? Then I'll provide you with a
Yeah,
list.
that's why I was
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
confused.
It is it's actually on the form that's conditional non-recurring. Looks like this sheet. And it has the CIP at the top. This was from last, the 320. But it looks like this.
I got it.
Take it down. And really the only projects on the CIP for FY 2018 is the Southern Middle School systemic renovation. Those three pieces.
Because we prioritized.
At this time, in discussion, some items that possibly could be put as a capital project and sent over to the commissioners in hopes that they would fund it would be the barn at Northern High School for the FFA.
Okay.
And to my understanding, the number actually is a little bit less now because they've been doing fundraisers and people have been supporting from the community for that project. So it would be a lower amount. I believe it's around $40,000 now is the estimated cost for the barn for the Northern High School. And two more items possibly, unless other board members have ideas to send over for capital projects, would be the track at Northern High School and the track at Southern High School that need refurbished. And again, to my understanding, these would be good items to send over because they are also, the community utilizes them. Not just students and staff during school hours, but they're also used after hours.
But that
Those
was,
aren't on this list.
Right, but I would
Were
just
some
bring
of
it to the
these?
attention.
Were some of these? Some of these are QZAB application. I know we prioritized. Which ones were they that we are going to send for QZAB?
The ones we sent were the facade repairs at Southern High School, the entranceway and the front facade, the band roof and media center roof at Southern High School, the PA system at Northern High School, and the bell system at Southern Middle School.
Thanks.
And when would you hear back on those requests?
It's going to be in May. I think it's mid-May when they'll get back. We just submitted the applications last week, last Tuesday, I think it was.
Do you see any of those projects being something to be completed this summer?
We would like to work towards that, if at all possible. To be honest with you, this summer, that's going to be tough, especially on the roof project and the front facade. Now, the PA system and the bell system, possibly, because we would like to integrate that into the voice over internet phone systems. That's something we can do ourselves. We just have to buy the equipment. The other one we'll have to, those are larger projects that we'll have to put out to bid, so we're kind of late on that as far as getting anything started this summer. So I really see the facade and the roof replacements as being next year, next summer.
What school starts, those would be.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do those, right?
And traditionally, that's how QZAB money goes.
Goes a year behind.
Yeah, we actually received the reimbursement a year behind when the work's done.
If I may. I also want to remind the board that we do have had some parent concerns about some safety issues at Yoklades Elementary School. You had asked that we look at putting a study for Yoklades on next year's plan. That might be something that we would at least like you to at least consider as a one-time. That would, I believe that was about $55,000 for the site study. So I'd like the board to consider that as well as a possibility of a one-time project, at least the study to be submitted to the commissioners. For your consideration, of course.
Please pardon my ignorance, but, so the barn was in the, I thought the barn was in the revised budget scenario. It is?
It
Now
is.
it's being suggested that it be part of an additional capital request and pulled out of the budget scenario. You're saying we're replacing something in the
That's what I'm
budget
assuming.
scenario?
It's a suggestion, yes.
Correct.
That is a suggestion, replacing something in the budget
Yes.
scenario and then asking for an additional and putting the FFA barn in the additional request. Thank you.
And I believe with the budget that was presented to us, the tracks, were they in scenario 1 or 2? Or did
They
we
were
have
in
them?
3.
They were in
They
3.
They're not in the budget, okay.
They were all.
Well, the Southern High School was in 1B. And
Southern
then
was-
Northern High
Track.
School was the,
Northern
It's
was-
put,
right. Yeah. Southern High School was higher than Northern High
correct,
School.
correct.
As the hope had been to try to do Southern this year, Northern
The
next year. Meaning 18 and then 19.
Correct. But as the budget's being presented to us right now, just make sure I'm clear, Southern High School track
Is not.
is not in this budget either, okay.
No, it was part of that 615,000.
Yeah, so we took out.
It's like a $220,000.
225 for each.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for each of them, yeah. Does, Mr. Edwards, you might know the answer to this. Is Northern able to have track meets on their track?
Yes,
They are. Southern is not.
correct.
To me, it's a shame to have a facility that nice and say we can't use it. I mean, that goes against all logic to me. We put a lot of money over the years into both those facilities.
We can, if I may, on those tracks, we can host meets between schools, but we can't do any regional or higher level meets because they don't meet the codes for regional type meets.
Because of the need to resurface?
No, it's the number of lanes that we have, the fact that we don't have 110 meter course set up on it, at least at Southern High School. They're just not large enough to host multiple runners on the track.
So
even
that would
though-
not change with the refurbishing of the track. I mean, the size of the track is going to remain the size of the track.
Unless we request to bring
Enough
them
money
up
to
to
put in.
code like
Probably needs 2 lanes, I would
like they
imagine.
have at Mountain Ridge type facility that could host regional meets and things. The caution we have to have too is on these tracks, when you put down this new surface, is when you have walkers on your track, they wear the track out much faster. You maybe get 5 years out of a track. If you keep the walkers off of it, you maybe get up to 10 years out of a track. But they're not made for walking a lot of traffic on the inside lanes, that is. And then in 10 years, you have to probably do some maintenance and resurface on those type rubberized type tracks.
Your estimates of 225, are those to rubberize the track,
They were.
but not add additional lanes?
No. And speaking with an engineer just last week that designs tracks, he said to bring it up to the requirements that you need to host a meet, you're probably in the $300,000 range. add the additional lanes and the sprinting lanes and things like that.
Added to the 225,
No, in total.
Total.
so you'd be just 75,000 more.
It'd be interesting to have that availability to present to the commissioners. Hear both scenarios, and the reason we would ask for the 300,000 is simply be in fairness to our athletes.
One of the ideas is long-term is if we want to preserve the track, is to fence it off, not allow community walkers, but create a walking track in another location on the campus there, so the walkers still have a place to go, but, you know, keep the track for track and field meets and for the school use, you know, PE classes and things like that, and try to keep as much traffic off of it as we can, non-competitive type traffic, you know.
If that were, gosh, I'm getting too old to remember everything, but it seems like we use open space monies on some of that. Would that come into play?
We would have to address that. I'm not sure that if we provide another facility, if we could, you know, take that and close it off. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how long program open space has to remain.
Me neither.
Program
It's been a long
open
time.
space.
Yeah.
30 years ago, at least.
Yeah. I know the signs are old.
Yeah, the signs of myself.
So Northerns wouldn't need to be enlarged, it could hold meets? You
It
said-
would have, I don't think it has
Not regional.
the same number of lanes. I mean, was that 6 lanes or is it?
It would need extra lanes. I think, to go back to Mr. Wood's question, Southern is hosting 0 meets. Northern will host, you know,
Yeah.
they're going to
Dual
run
meets,
against
three teams.
dual meets, tri-meets. Neither can host a region meet or the area meet because of the size of the track. They're the same size. Both facilities are the same
Southern's
size.
is because of the dip.
There are multiple things. There's the unevenness of the track, and then when it was overlaid to try to fix some of the unevenness, they didn't mill, so it's higher, so you've got a drop off on the right side, so someone could bust an ankle or whatever. Plus, it's still uneven throughout the track.
Right.
So it's been many years since they've been resurfaced then.
It's been a number of years, yes.
I don't know if
They've
it's ever
well
been resurfaced.
exceeded further.
I think it's only been patched.
Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think they've ever been totally resurfaced either.
I think the county resurfaced the southern track. And 3 years ago, we resurfaced the high jump, the long jump, and the pole vault areas because they were cracking up. They had weeds growing up through the cracks and all.
Back to QZAB. All those items were submitted, but again, they won't fund them all, correct? There's a certain amount of money that they fund on QZAB. Is that,
Yes, there's,
so Nathan, I don't know if he's aware of that. All the projects that Mr. Swift had listed that was sent to QZAB, they only give a certain amount of money, so they all wouldn't be funded.
because the QZAB is qualified zone academy bonds that they sell, and most of those funds go to disadvantaged schools, but they try to do at least one project for every school system, at least one. And then they look at your record of completing projects and the need if they'll provide additional. So we've never received more than 2 projects. in
Give a
QZAB
general
fund.
idea of the amount of money that we generally would get.
It varies. It's minimum 30,000, but we've never received more than 200,000 in a year.
And what project are you applying for in this current?
We applied for kind of a renovation in front of Southern High School, repoint the bricks. We're having some moisture infiltration problems. Repointing the bricks, painting the columns, and replacing the doors and the entranceway to the school. The other thing is we need to replace the roof on the band hallway and the roof on the media center. Another project is replacing the PA system at Northern High School and replacing the bell system at Southern Middle School.
So you've applied for all these
We've applied for those 4.
at a
yes.
grand total of?
I can tell you this.
About
I know.
$400,000.
On top
And
right
you-
there, yeah, it's,
Pushing
And it's-
400,000.
Yeah.
And you prioritize those?
we prioritize, yes,
Those were
based on
prioritized.
428,000.
428. The number 1 is where we have water issues, and that's the Southern High facade and the roofs, and then the PA system, and then the bell system.
So none of those additional projects are covered under this, or in this budget? If they're not, if they don't get money. So the only way those other ones get in is if,
Or if the commissioners, we submit it to the commissioners on CIP and they approve it.
yeah. But that's, we haven't suggested that yet.
Well, you want to explain the CIP too, Bill?
The capital improvement plan, we submit every year. We put a plan together as a team of what projects we need, and we prioritize those. We go out and we get budget numbers of what it would cost. We put that on our CIP. The board approves the CIP. Now, there's 2 versions of that. There's one, the internal, which is funded just with local funds here, whether the school system, county, and then there's a state CIP where we go down to the state and we request funds. Those are the major projects: systemic renovations, entire roof replacements, or renovation of entire school. So those are the larger ones that will go to the state. The state will participate 50-50 in funds for us based on a formula. It doesn't always work out to 50-50.
The
but
wealth formula.
yeah. So we'll submit that CIP to the county commissioners for approval, and then based on that, either we'll do it with local funds, or we'll go to the state and go through their process to request state funds to fund to complete those projects.
Thank you.
However, the one thing to note is that every county, due to the wealth formula, has a different state share. And unfortunately, because the state does not participate in certain portions of capital projects, it really boils down for us, for Garrett, a 75-25. So really, the state is only really taking 25% of the burden.
That number, that 428 is wrong on those projects. They're actually 234. The 4 projects that
I think it's-
he was talking about sending to QZAB.
I think it's actually 344,000.
Yeah. One of them's 166 and one of them's 150. So there's 315.
And then 12.
It's pushing 400,000.
Well, the PA system and the bell system, the minimum is 30,000, and we are looking at doing the voice over internet phones. So there's an additional cost. So they're actually, those projects are actually 30 and 34,000.
Yeah.
We can replace with old technology for the 12 and the 15,000, but since we're putting the VoIP phones in, we thought that if QZAB would participate, we would ask for the additional funds for that.
Do you have recommendations beyond the yacht fleet? You mentioned a concern from parents on that space. Are there safety and security items that you would prioritize?
Well, I know what in general was discussed between Ms. Rinker and Mr. Edwards as far as some projects that were possibilities. I don't know that that one was mentioned, so I just wanted to mention that because that's a safety issue. Everything, and without really looking at it, I wouldn't have additional recommendations of what that, specifically what could be requested this evening, beyond what those suggestions were. certainly we, I see as Ms. Rinker's looking, we did have things that were out priority 2 that could be considered. I do know, and without having it in front of me, I do know the lighting at Northern High School was also another possibility. It was part of a larger project of paving and some other things that we were going to do. I know that one, I don't know if it's on next year's, remember when we took out the big project and we just put lighting, that would probably be another recommendation of mine, that we put that in. Just because in discussions with the principal for safety again, I think that would probably be, right off the top of my head, another recommendation.
And wasn't it just this summer they did the lights in the parking lot at Southern High, and it made a difference, they said, especially when you have your evening events, and yes,
Yeah.
it's a safety also. Anybody else have any comments on, or any more questions?
Are we going to prioritize what we ask the commissioners for in terms of capital outlay?
I think that would be a good idea.
I think we probably need to give direction to
Right.
the staff as to what our thoughts are.
Correct.
Should write those down. I've already forgotten. Which ones did we have?
Mrs. Rinker suggested the barn, both tracks. And then Mrs. Baker suggested the design or site study work for the Blades drop off. And then Northern High lighting, pull that out from the larger project. So those are the items so far.
So those items roughly are about.
And what was the cost on the Blades?
50,000.
55 for
Yes,
just
55.
just the study.
Studies.
So that would
Yeah.
tell us,
To know what you could
what
do.
we, right.
I would go just on record as saying, as far as if Northern, it was a priority 3 on our list and is not a major safety concern, I wouldn't think that is one that we would need to send over.
The track?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay, so maybe put it further down. The other thing I was going to say to Mr. Swift, my other recommendation then would be, we most likely are not going to get the QZEB, all of the QZEB requests. And because those are water issues and some things that we probably need to do, I would say those, whatever, we're not going to necessarily know right now, but whatever comes back not approved probably should be closer to the top of your list as well.
Yeah, I think that those particular issues should be the top priorities, which were listed on that conditional non-recurring. So based on whatever funding we get for whatever portion of that, that would be the, and then go to
The secondary ones.
And we won't know till probably, what do we think, is it May on QZAB, possibly what they'll be funding?
I think it's the mid-May is when you'll get a response back from them.
The replacement of the roof in the media hallway at Southern, obviously needs done. I guess my question would be, between that and the resurfacing of the track to make it usable and safer, which of those has a higher priority?
The roof.
The roof?
Roofs take priority over just about everything. If you have a leaky roof, you're going to have major issues
Well, it's
elsewhere.
causing so many other problems.
Yeah, because it looks like if we're going to get one of those, we're not going to get them both.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, our hopes are that we're going to get one of them.
Yeah.
I think it's, our hopes are that we're going to get some things from the county commissioners, but I think we all know we're not going to get everything we just listed either.
Right.
So I think it becomes pretty important for us to know exactly where we want to head after we hear from the state. Because I do see I do see some of those as obviously the roof needs done, but at the same time, when we're putting kids out on a track, that I think if we're saying it's not safe enough to even hold a meet, I don't know where we're putting ourselves there. I don't think we could put kids on a football field if we didn't think the field was safe to play on. So, to me, that's a very high priority, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's something that we need to take care of. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Now, isn't there aging schools also? Do we get money for aging schools?
We did. We received $38,000. And I don't recall off the top of my head those projects.
Yeah, and
So do
aging
we
schools.
submit to them? I forget. We do. We submit items to them.
And it's the same sort of a cycle as the QZAB in that it's basically a year behind. We get the permission or the funding, and then the actual project normally does not take place that summer.
Right.
It takes place the following summer, and then the reimbursement occurs in the following fiscal year.
Now, was that our Southern High School parking lot? Was that aging school?
That was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the walls at Yacht Glades.
Yacht Glades, right, wall project renovation,
That was-
parking lot lights.
Correct.
And there was,
The third one.
I know. Can't remember right now. Okay.
Krellin windows, right?
Yes.
Krellin
Yeah.
windows.
Yeah.
Just ask one more thing about the southern track. You mentioned, at first we were saying if it was opened up, it might be more appealing to the commissioners. But there was a lot of good reasons for closing the track and not having duffers out there messing up the surface. Does opening up the track as at least an option, if this is not a project that's funded, does that open us up to grant opportunities for community partnership grants? I'm not knowing if maybe there's even a support for opening it up, but is making that differentiation of an open space, a community space, does that open us up to other funding, do you think?
It is. We could submit it for a program of open space funding for the improvements of it. We've done that with the tennis courts.
Yeah, I think originally that was what was.
That's how
Yeah.
it originally got
It was
started.
used a good bit by the community as a walking place.
The problem with that is you're going to get very limited funds.
Right.
I mean, you're going to get.
The projects are
nickel.
very small,
You're gonna
but
drop
it's
the
like
ocean.
$15,000 to $30,000. And that's great funding for a playground or for the tennis court. We've done a lot of the tennis courts around our schools that way. And currently the softball field, the Southern High School
Right.
softball field is a project open space. And those projects are usually upwards of 3 fiscal years that they take to come to fruition and then finally get the reimbursement.
I think the idea of closing it, though, makes it less appealing to the
Yes.
commissioners.
I was going to say that.
So that's where,
If more people can use it,
That's
it would
what
be
I-
more likely to get funded. However, I totally understand that it does lessen the life of the track.
Well, and if I may, it's not just walkers. I mean, there's a sign that says no bicycle, no skateboard, but I go by there all the time and there's bicycles and skateboards and so, but, because it's a great place for,
It is.
for them to do that, so.
And we tell them to get outside and play, right?
That's exactly right, we do.
Yes.
So,
Safe from the being on the road.
public money. Replace the HV units in the main gym, 150,000. Is that something that's absolutely necessary now? I mean,
No,
that's-
they're working now. It's just part of the ongoing maintenance program. These are original to the gym, and eventually we're going to have problems with them. So we're starting to plan for replacements now.
So are you recommending then, Matthew, that we put everything in QZAB in front of the recommendations that we're making?
Yeah, to me, those would be higher priorities. I mean, looking at, the roof system. I don't know about the PA.
That's why-
I don't know about
yeah,
the
that's
PA
why I
necessarily,
just
but that's
asked-
like so small.
That's why I just asked that question. If we go with the QZAP, if we go with that list, then we're possibly, because his answer was that no, that's just on the list,
Yeah.
so we
But
eventually get to it.
There's two big projects, the media center and the front entrance, if we're having issues that are of the nature they're saying. I would put those, and those would affect the whole building, and, you have a roof, then the media center affects all the students there, so I think that would be a priority first. Yeah.
Yeah, I would list those, in my opinion, as the first two.
Yeah.
And this other track is number 3. And then whatever you can get, you can get. Because I think if we could get all 3 of those, that would be.
The only hard thing with that would be, I think those are all Southern High School projects that have
I
that.
understand.
So how do we, and it's where the needs are, that it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But from the commissioner's perspective, I think they'd also want to spread that.
And then if you want to look at safety and security, here we got Crellin, and we know how the entrance of Crellin is. You just go right into the school. There's no buffer whatsoever there, like we're trying to, do in the other schools. So it's hard to put a safety issue behind a track.
And the barn has been suggested, so that's a Northern High School project. I could see where that might go down a little bit on your list.
But the barn is on our.
It is.
It's on our amount that we
It's back
put
in.
back on the table.
Correct.
From our operating budget.
If
But
the
it
barns are
doesn't
more, if the barns are more politically expedient, public kind of choice, I mean, as long as we package some of these safety priorities to take place in the budget scenario, then that seems like a reasonable exchange to me. And maybe even the 16,000 for is that the PA system?
Yes, yeah. And then the bell system is 12,000. So then, it's agreed for the top of the list would be possibly, one of the larger items that QZAB does not fund, correct? The roof on the media center and band hall at Southern High School, or, the front entrance at Southern High because of moisture issues. Were those the 2 items we had said, correct?
I believe so.
And then Mr. Wood said Southern High School track. And then we had the barn at Northern High School FFA. Is that correct?
Personally, I would probably put the enhancement as Crellin first before the barn because of
Yeah.
the safety issue.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And, yeah, I go back and forth on if you put that, explain that project again to me as far as,
The Crellin?
The Crellin.
Yeah, what
Crellin.
is 90,000?
The project there is to enclose the front canopy area in Crellin. 2 purposes. One, provide security, as you have, 2 ways of a person getting into the school, and also for storage there in the front of Crellin. They store boots out front, and who knows what else is there.
Yeah, but then
Those
when they
kids
have
are
all
in
that
and
stuff out there, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's just a way of enclosing and providing more storage area for some of that and security issues. I don't want to underestimate the bell system and the PA systems. They're original in both schools, and they go down, you have massive problems. And they're not easily, our problem we're having now is they're running, they're working, but we're starting to have issues, and we have to bring a company up from Charleston. They're the only one around that can fix those systems, and I'm just worried that we're going to have a catastrophic failure, and then we're going to be scrambling to try to come up with a Bell system solution. So getting out in front of it, we know we want to migrate to the VoIP system, phones, and they can provide PA capabilities as well as Bell system capabilities, as well as put in a phone so you can have a private one-on-one conversation between the classroom and the office, and or each classroom could dial 911 directly if there's an emergency in that facility. So a lot of advantages, and like I said, I don't want to underestimate the need for those two projects.
So that money is to add to the voice over telephones project?
That's what it is.
Okay.
That is that.
Okay.
That is
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's the VoIP system,
Okay.
but it's throughout the whole school. The VoIP
Right.
system that Mr. Gang's working on right now is just providing phones for the offices and the guidance office, and this is for the entire school.
Okay.
We'll put a
Well,
phone
I think
in.
it was mentioned last month that could be added once the phones were in, that a different kind of PA system could be done. So what you're looking at is is replacing with that system. Do we already have the VoIP phones there in these schools?
No.
Not at Sutton.
That's in the budget, correct?
We're talking Southern Middle?
Southern Middle. We don't.
Southern Middle, we
no.
don't have VoIP phones.
And we're talking about Northern High.
Northern High, their phones are actually there. We're about 90% implemented there. So probably in about a week, their offices and their cafeteria, those folks from guidance will have a VoIP system.
Okay, so the 16,000 that's here could then be used to replace Northern's PA system, because they're going to have the phones. But now Southern Middle, the 12,000 there, you can't go to those yet, because you got to get the phone system in. So would you just you wouldn't replace that Bell system with the old system, knowing that you're eventually going to get the.
Well, here, if you all would update your numbers that you have, that was, those 12,000, 16,000 was to replace the existing system with a like system. When we went back, we sat down and we looked at putting VoIP phones for actual phones, as well as a Bell system, as well as a PA system, and those costs come out to $31,000 for Southern Middle and $34,000 for Northern High School. So those are really the new numbers, and that's what was submitted in the QZAB application, because the minimum for QZAB is $30,000. We couldn't submit these projects for QZAB funds because they were under that minimum.
Okay, well, we hadn't been given that information.
Right. Well, that just came about
Okay.
just last week.
Okay, so that's then.
And the nice thing is with QZAB is the state funds 100% of that, so we wouldn't have. Otherwise, we would have to pay the 12 and 16 out of local funds.
So if the project is approved, it would be approved in whole. They wouldn't say there's a portion of it, the whole project.
Because we looked at, we're going to put phones in, we're going to put switches and enunciators or speakers, loudspeakers, and what else was there? Was a third component, wasn't there?
For the high school, actually for both of these schools, the third component is the bell scheduler itself.
The bell scheduler,
Which
right?
makes the tone go off whenever they have to schedule.
Excuse me, does QZAB typically go with your recommendations?
We put in applications for what we want to.
But you prioritize those
Mhm.
applications. Do they typically go with your priorities?
They try to do one project for every county, and it's usually your first priority.
Right. And our first priority was the Southern.
The facade repairs, right?
Not the roof?
That was number 2.
Would they ever take 1 and 4?
Yeah, they could, yeah.
Yeah, to make the dollars.
Get to a number that
Right.
They've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a nice scenario if we could at least get one of those
Yeah.
PA systems.
And that's why
done.
we put some lower cost ones in there, hoping we could get those in as well.
So again, to make sure that we have this down correct, for capital projects, sent over to the county commissioners, one would either be the Southern High School roof or going with the media center, band hallway, or the front entrance. Both have water problems. Whatever one QZAB didn't fund, then we could put the other one on here.
Or potentially both, depending on.
Right, correct.
Up to.
Not knowing. And then we have Southern High School track, the entrance to Crowley. Is that correct?
No, that would be
That's what-
mine, I'm just speaking for me.
Matt, everything?
I go back and forth on, probably, we like to invest in elementary schools too, and if it's a security concern, but also at the accolades coming up too, I think that both of those should be over somewhere. As far as where we put them,
For the plans, for the,
The design,
yes,
study.
architect study, correct.
And how much was that?
50.
55.
What was the initial cost that was gonna be after the design at Yacht Lakes?
We haven't gotten an estimate
I thought
yet.
there was some numbers thrown around though at one time.
Well, there would be two different options, correct? One, if you just made the buses come in a different way, is that correct? The parents a
Instead of the
different
road.
one,
Mhm.
yes. And then there was, where if you put an additional parking lot, was that another piece to it?
Well, you could set the project up that way.
Right,
But part of the problem is there's limited parking at
true,
Duck Lake.
true,
And the traffic flow is an issue, so they're kind of,
together.
they go together.
But we've never had a guesstimate as to what that cost would be. I
No.
thought somebody.
The study would, that's what we need the.
Yeah, we really get some budget estimates.
So what if the buses are having trouble getting around the circle? What if the circle was bigger?
They can't make it that turn.
How did we miss that
I don't think it's,
when we built it?
You're the only one of us that.
How did you miss that?
Wow.
I guess I'm not disinclined to put the track on the list. I'm just trying to understand why the administration put it at a 1C
As opposed to, yeah.
and not up. So if, like, that suggests to me, just because I'd like to be informed and have a good answer here, but I'm trying to understand why the administration, what are the projects in between that we're missing and that aren't critical, or that are critical that we're not maybe bringing forward? Is there something, or
I think that's mostly this list, isn't it? But
mostly what's on the QZAP? Yeah.
But is there anything else? That's a good question.
We're already asking for some CIP money, right?
But for the southern
The
middle.
478,000, I mean, for the, just to look at the design work for the entrance to the school. Because this is what we've got on the CIP already, right?
What's currently on there now?
It was all southern middle, right?
Right.
And that's the total amount, that's not just the county's portion.
There's
What
some.
what you're seeing on this conditional non-recurring chart is the entire amount. So it's not.
Right, well, I'm looking at the CIP.
Oh, okay.
That one
Of
we
that
don't
3.2 million, you have an idea what's the county portion?
It was revised.
which portion?
Of the
county's
southern
portion of
middle project,
Southern Middle.
like 3.2 million.
It's like 2.6, I think. I can't remember.
Of the 3 systemic projects we're doing now, the county's portion is 1.2, about 1.8 million.
Of the 3.2, so they've agreed to 1.8 million.
And that's for the year in 2017, 2018, correct?
That's for fiscal year 2018.
That's what we're now, we're talking about 2018. Okay.
you know, and my thought certainly would be, you know, I think you've done an excellent job, you know, prioritizing them thus far. The commissioners certainly could reprioritize them how they, you know, how they see fit, based on what their vision is for the community use of each facility. But certainly, if we don't ask, my understanding was, they said ask,
Right.
you know, so I think we should. And then they can certainly reprioritize them if they want. But we would, you know, have a rationale, certainly for the ones that are, you know, causing water problems and what the, you know, what may be potential safety issues or security issues, or, you know, we know that some of the VoIP phone, just the office phones are going to be a savings for us. So probably not the bell system and the speakers, but we do know that the phone system will end up being a potential savings. So, you know, that might come into play as well. And as far as the track or the barn, you know, maybe they would, you know, they take into account that, you know, a lot of the folks in the northern end have, you know, they've been working on their own fundraising, so maybe that would be their priority, but maybe the track would be, you know, I don't know, but, you know, I certainly think we've got a nice list of projects, but they can certainly come back and say,
Sure.
you know, we'll do this one and this one, but not this one.
Well, I think we've been fair to the commissioners. I mean, we could have asked for everything. We did it. You know, we asked for what we thought was in the best interest of our kids.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
two more points.
Okay.
If you look at the projects that were in the $615,000, there is a tractor that is an equipment purchase for $36,000. That is part of the comprehensive maintenance plan. So as it stands, that is not in any of these scenarios that we're discussing. That's the first thing. The second thing is also within this cut of $615,000 is $55,000 worth of ongoing paving projects. And while we are reimbursing the county for the product, the actual bituminous overlay.
Yeah, good job. You got it ready to go.
They may feel generous enough to be able to pay for the bituminous overlay instead of invoicing us for the actual product. It's just an idea.
Mr. Swift, anything you wanted to add as they're prioritizing? Anything that we've forgotten? Anything else you want to add?
You know, I think once we get your priorities back, we'll find out what the state's going to fund, use that. We'll have a much better idea of what projects are priority that we can go to the county with. But I don't think we're going to know that until probably mid to late May. Exactly what we have.
The integration of those portables at Broadford into the TASIS system or whatever. Medicine. That's not an urgent need to do that.
It's not an urgent need, but it's an energy efficiency initiative that we could certainly, it could pay for itself if we do it, because those units now are controlled by a thermostat. Somebody's got to turn it up, somebody's got to turn it down. Somebody doesn't turn that thermostat for the weekend or the nighttime setback, we could be using energy. Whereas with the Medicis, we set up schedules and it controls the system. We don't have to rely on somebody to do that. So I don't want to sound like, you know, the rooms won't heat or cool without it, but
Sure.
They'll be much more efficient with the Medicis controlling the temperature.
Did Mr. Edwards give you any kind of indication when we might get approval if we separated these requests?
No. But we could send a letter to them saying that we would send some capital projects over upon waiting to hear back what QFAB funded.
I'm sure they're not going to do anything until they see what our budget request is.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Would we do this in a formal request as a CIP submission to them like we do every year?
He told me no, it would not go through CIP. It would just be capital projects. We would send over as capital projects.
When we send the CIP, the capital improvement project list over to them, it includes both state-funded projects and locally funded projects. So it would be the same.
He just said it would not run through the CIP at all.
To me, it would not. She was
No,
saying.
it's something that would be
It would
different.
be completely
It's
separate.
like a one-time thing, I guess you'd probably say.
And my guess is they're looking for projects that do not have a state cost share. I don't know that, but
From what I understood, yes. Yes.
We submit to them every year a CIP summary sheet.
Yes.
That has all the capital projects on it,
Uh-huh.
whether state funded or locally funded. This is what we send over to the commissioners every year for approval.
But he's talking about,
I
that's
think he's
where I'm
saying
confused.
600 more
Yeah.
than,
He's saying
what's on
separate
there.
on this budget, but we'll have to have another budget line and I don't,
yeah, I think it's separate from what we requested there.
that's why I asked that question earlier.
But, yeah.
What, didn't we have a request now in? Because we do have the CIP and it has a request on it.
One would assume that commissioners know that our CIP is there, and they're saying, if you want
addition.
something extra, now's the time to ask for it. That's the assumption I would get from that conversation. I would think we would just simply send them a letter along with our budget request. That we would like consideration of these outside of the CIP process. See where it goes.
Yeah, so we'll be approving the budget in May, I think, is what our timetable is. So if we can have that, like you said, just that list attached, we can finalize that then once we have feedback. Maybe we'll have a clearer picture at that point, maybe not, but at least we'll have.
and we could certainly develop that list for you with exact totals
Yeah,
of what the
and if there's other things
estimates
we might
are.
have missed in this
Right.
discussion, because there's a lot of other things out there that
Right, okay.
there. So I would say that would be a good
Okay.
way just to handle it. So, to add that as an addition to our budget.
Now, you need additional direction in preparation of the next meeting, correct?
For the budget worksheets to be complete, I think right now, what I would need to know is the board's pleasure on replacing the barn, which was included in the $195,050. Would the board like me to first look at the safety and security projects that are not inclusive currently, or the improved efficiency, or is there something else that I should replace that project with in the budget?
Yeah, it's because the barn and this discussion would go with that capital,
Exactly.
which would be an additional, yeah. I think safety and security probably would be your first priority, just so.
I agree.
And
And I'm not so sure that the PA system, those $63,000, $65,000 worth of items certainly are. I mean, you're right. If you lose a bell system at a high school, you got a problem. And it's a problem every day, every minute.
Right, correct.
It doesn't go away.
Well, till we fix it.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, so we have a general feeling for what projects we're going to pull out, and what projects we're going to prioritize. At the last meeting, this board voted to make the full request of my recommendation. So, Ms. Schweitzer, I believe you'll need further direction based on the new information on what we're going to pull out. And then with the governor's 456, do we want to, what else do you need in order to prepare the budget sheets?
Well, I need to know if the reduction scenario, the revised, is the direction we want to, you would like the administration to go in, the cabinet to work on. And then I will pull these items out. They'll be capital. And they will not be included then in the operating budget as part of the capital budget. So I think that's probably,
Okay.
as long as the board is fine with this reduction scenario.
Right, but
There's-
meaning right
that's
here,
all
we
there.
would be still asking for an additional over maintenance of effort, 1,504,311, correct?
If that is the
Right, that's
board.
what I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
And say that one more time.
Well, at the last meeting, you voted to accept my recommendation and request the 1.96 over maintenance of effort from the commissioners. So what I'm asking is, that was your vote, so that's what has been recorded. With the governor's portion, things that we may pull out, right now, what's on there is the additional 1.5. Now, there would certainly be some projects pulled out of that, but would you like her to prepare, is that what our funding request is going to be?
And that is above maintenance of effort.
Correct.
1.5 is above
Correct.
maintenance. Yeah, certainly.
So, Monica, when you talked to Mr. Edwards, what was your feeling as far as what they would do over maintenance of effort?
My feeling from the conversation was fund maintenance of effort and then fund capital projects. In the past, we did, was it one-time, non-reoccurring, we've said over, I believe the past 2 years. They had funded that in addition. But this year, he said, the feel of the commissioners, the conversations before was for capital projects.
So just so I heard you right, you just said at maintenance of effort.
That, to my
1.5
understanding.
million less than what's up there is what was
That
communicated
is,
to you.
yes, that is my understanding with my conversation with Mr. Edwards.
And as I've stated to you, it's a tremendous amount of work for Allison and her staff to prepare the budget worksheets. She really needs direction on, and I understand that's what was communicated to you. But as I've said many times to this board, my job, it's written in Comar, is to advocate for the needs of our school system, and I have to do that in good conscience. I have to advocate for what the needs of our children are. I understand if you $1.5 million over maintenance of effort is a tremendous amount of money, but we really do need to know exactly where you what you want. What's the flavor of the pleasure of the board? If we want to continue to ask.
Personally, I'll make the recommendation once we get to that point. But I think you, central office staff, and you as the superintendent, have taken into account every possible scenario to save money. but yet not at the cost of education. And, you know, that's
Then you're
what-
absolutely right.
that's what we're charged to
Thank you.
do.
Yes, you're right. It will mean program and it will mean program cost. You know, it will be elimination of programs, teachers.
And I think we need to make that very clear to the commissioners that the 1.5 million we're asking for is a bare bones budget. And here's where we're going to have to cut. And, you know, when you start cutting positions, you're cutting the ability to offer an education. But I'll make a motion that we accept the superintendent's proposed operating reduction scenario budget.
Do I have a second?
I'll make a second for discussion.
Discussion? Questions, comments?
Just from what I said at the beginning, I have to withhold my support this time until I see that 775 in executive, just so I can have more information on that line item. But generally, I support the general nature of the ask, but I need to withhold till I see that.
Make a motion to table the motion until the general meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We'll table it for later, after more discussion.
Okay, then we will need to add that to the agenda for the public session then. Okay.
No more questions? Thank you for all your time and
Yes,
information brought to us. Welcome everybody here this evening. We will open our meeting. First item is a consent agenda. Consent agenda is for minutes from the March 20, 2017 Board of Education meeting, field trip request, and professional leave request. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Consent agenda passed. We will all stand up for a brief moment of silence, please. At this time, we will have Cheyenne do our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item on the agenda is closed session summaries. Ms. Baker?
Thank you. The Board of Education met in executive session on Monday, March 20th, 2017 at central office in the boardroom at 4:04 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items: board meeting minutes, personnel topics, field trips, professional leave requests, personnel matter, negotiations, and administrative function topics. The board recessed the executive session at 5:28 p.m. for a brief break before the public session would begin. The executive session reconvened at 8:55 p.m. to discuss a personnel matter, negotiations, and administrative function topics. The board met in accordance with 3-305-1 of the general provisions of the article of the annotated code and pursuant to section 6-202A of the education article of the annotated code, and discussed and voted on the interim superintendent's recommendation on the dismissal of an employee who had not requested a hearing before the board. By a vote of 4-0, the board voted to accept the interim superintendent's recommendation and dismiss the employee. The board met in accordance with section 3-305B1 of the provisions article of the annotated code and pursuant to section 6-408 of the education article of the annotated code, and discussed and voted on recommended negotiation parameters for each of the 4 bargaining units. The board voted in a 3-0 vote in favor of the recommended parameters. Matthew Paw made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Tom Wood seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved adjourning the executive session at 11:10 p.m. Board members present included Mrs. Monica Rinker, President, board members Mr. Matthew Paw, Mrs. Charlotte Seabold, and Mr. Tom Woods. Mrs. Barbara Baker, Secretary Treasurer, Interim Superintendent of Schools, and Mr. Brandon Hoover, Board Attorney, also attended the meeting. Dr. Jane Wildison, Director of Human Resources, and Mrs. Allison Schweitzer, Director of Finance, were present for part of the meeting. Mrs. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, was present at part of the meeting for the purpose of taking minutes.
Thank you. Our next item is announcements. Ms. Baker.
Took off my glasses. Okay, so we have this Friday, April 7th, as staff development, students will be dismissed 3 hours early. April 14th, Good Friday, schools closed. April 17th, Easter Monday, schools closed. April 21st is the Northern Garrett FFA banquet. April 22nd is our Student Arts Fair at the CARC, and I would recommend everyone attend the Student Arts Fair. It's an excellent day for our students to showcase all of their art. Here. May 4th is the Southern Garrett FFA banquet, and on May 5th, progress reports will go out for the 4th grading period.
Now at this time, we will do our recognition. Our first recognition for this evening is the Northern Garrett High School Concert Band and Chorus. And Mrs. Seabolt, would you?
I'll probably read, since there's so many of you, I'll just read this from here, and then we can pass out the certificates. Is that okay?
Yes.
The board would like to recognize the Northern Garrett High School Concert Band and Chorus for their participation in the presidential inauguration celebration and their achievements at the World Stride On-Stage inaugural music festival. The band and chorus had a special invitation to attend the 2017 presidential inauguration celebration on Friday, January 20th, 2017. On Saturday, the students participated in the World Strides On-Stage inaugural music festival. These were performances which were open to the public and were adjudicated by outstanding collegiate and professional judges. The concert chorus received a rating of silver, which is excellent, with a score of 83 and first place in their division. Congratulations. The concert band received a rating of gold superior with a score of 86 and first place in its division. So congratulations to the band also. In addition, 2 of our students received specialty awards at each World Strides On-Stage Festival. Students who stand out from all the others in performance of a solo portion of music are recognized with a Maestro Award for their outstanding musical contribution. There were 5 such awards presented at this festival, and one of them was presented to Robert W. Benninger, a senior. Is Robert here with us? I've enjoyed listening to you at going to the band concerts and things. So I guess you would be a senior. You've been around for a couple of years now.
Forever.
Yes, but I've enjoyed it very much. He's going to miss you. He's going to miss you
I
terribly.
am.
In addition, there is a specialty award named the Ovation Award, which recognizes the contributions of students that go beyond their musical abilities, often dealing with the inspirational stories of their lives or circumstances in life. There is only one of these presented at each World Strides Festival, and we are proud to report that the winner of this award was Brandon Pickrell, a 9th grader. This was an incredible weekend for the music students from Northern Garrett High School. It's Brandon.
Brandon wasn't able to make it tonight.
Oh, okay, we'll give him our congratulations, please. Very proud.
Absolutely.
I have certificates to hand out.
Would you like me to help you?
Sure. The first one says the Garrett County Board of Education Certificate of Recognition to the Northern Garrett High School Concert Band and Chorus in honor of their achievements of outstanding accomplishment. And we will give that to you, and you can put it, I guess, in your music room and share it with them.
We'll go in our trophy case.
Yes, well, I'm sure it's pretty close to full now. So if you want to.
I've got to move some out so I can move some more in.
Okay.
First one.
Yes, Robert. And these are from the Garrett County Board of Education Certificate of Recognition. Congratulations.
Dawson Beitzel. I remember him. I didn't see him.
Let's see. Sally Benninger. Congratulations.
Rachel Bowser. Rachel Bowser.
Okay, congratulations.
Madison Dalton.
Congratulations.
Cheyenne Garrett. Stephen Hoffman. Ronald Shardiger.
Tiger.
How close? That wasn't too bad. And Christina Shekels. I know she's Christina. I remember.
She's multi-talented, I can tell by her uniform.
I asked her to wear that for a special reason. I wanted to let people know that we're not just musicians. We're athletes, we're ROTC, we're everything.
Your theater, because I see several people that I've enjoyed in theater performances, so yes, thank you. A picture?
Yes,
Do a
did we
picture.
miss somebody? Is she?
No.
Oh, okay. Did we miss anybody?
Everybody get a did you get a certificate?
Taylor Words. I thought she was on the list.
She wasn't on my list, but I will get one, so you can have it tomorrow. Okay,
We'll put her front and
sorry.
center.
That's fine. Well, I'll come out to Northern if you want us. She said, no, they'll be good. So
can
where do
hold
you
somebody
want
else's picture.
everybody? Crossed here?
Can we get these in front and we'll spread them across here?
Put out some of your.
And have you guys
We
come up
put
here.
out some of your.
We brought a little bit of everything. Not only was our concert band
Come on, packed in here some nights. I don't know
how he has them.
Our marching
Well,
band
maybe we'll
was
just
this
unpack
year
a
too.
couple of them.
And
Oh, yes.
we have quite a few there.
Just come on.
Just get the big ones.
Yeah.
I think that's the measure.
Get out of the way.
Place here. Well, we want you in the picture too.
Oh, I know.
I can hold this. Why don't you grab the big, yeah, I'll hold
Yeah,
the big
this
one. Will it come out? Try to hold this one because it's short. Hold it until we hold it.
Just make a line or two.
I'm good, shiny, I'm holding it. And here's one more.
You're gonna take those out.
We're just taking out the.
No, don't pop the bubble wrap.
That's the best part.
I have bubble wrap and you can't pop it.
I'm sorry.
Someone needs to
Grab,
hold that
hey,
one.
Stephen, grab one of these.
I saw pictures of you folks on Facebook or I forget where it was. Looked very nice in DC.
It was in high school,
Yes.
Depends on who fit in their picture. The certificate.
Just hold. Let's see. We've got one row. That's right. You're gonna have
He's got enough.
I'm gonna have to get two rows here. So, if you'll kneel down with the
That's not
roses. That's great.
Does that mean people who are sitting down, the only problem is I can't hold anything and move at the same time?
Well, I will
Not
hand
especially
you.
on carpet.
Do you want to hold this trophy? I'll bring that over to you.
There you go.
See how you parallel park.
You need one of those beepers. Beep, beep, he's backing up.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, we probably have to scooch in some more. Are we scooched?
I think I can get you. I'll take several pictures. Take another one. Let me take one more. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Here, I'll put that back.
Did you have anything that was telling them, did they realize what a once in a lifetime opportunity this is?
Well, it really was, getting to take kids to the inauguration. It really doesn't matter who's elected, not everybody was happy with this one, but hey, it's a civics lesson like you never get anywhere else. Me, it's my first. And as a result, I've been able to see a couple of others, and being involved, just being in crowds. And the way we were treated wonderfully. And when we saw the transition of power, and the world's most powerful nation. What can you say? It's an inspiring moment. And,
Remember me?
He rocked the house, and just did a really nice job. It was very nice. I thought that they learned a lot. Of course, we got to do some things in DC. We went to a couple of areas of the Smithsonian Institute. We saw some things, and we got to do those kinds of things and visit some different places, the National Archives. Got to see the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all those kinds of things. Things that a lot of kids from out here in this part of the country don't get very often. It was a very, very wonderful trip.
So glad you were able to go. So glad.
And I'm glad I felt a week after the trip.
Right.
Yes.
Now, do you need any help carrying anything down, or you guys?
Well, I think I've got enough help here for if I.
Congratulations
Yes.
again.
Congratulations.
That's all very proud.
All right, thank you.
And we would hear you the students work here, correct?
What's that? These guys will all be in
Yeah,
church.
we'll see you at the arts fair. The arts fair.
Some of them doing
Drama
a whole lot of things.
Okay, whoops.
Okay, thank you. All right. Go ahead, you're faster than I am.
Let's just present this to me because I don't see anything.
Go ahead. I'm hanging in, barely.
Our next recognition is School Library Month. We'll have Mrs. Proudfoot come up. Another library is unable to come this evening, is that correct?
Yes, that's
librarian?
correct. They could not. They had other activities going on, so I'm all by myself.
We'll have Nathan do the presentation.
This is for School Library Month. Whereas the school library program is to ensure that students or staff are effective users of ideas and information, and whereas the media specialist role is to provide the leadership and expertise necessary to ensure that the library program is an integral part or the instructional program of the school. And whereas the Board of Education has entrusted the media specialists in each school to teach the skills of locating and using information through traditional resources and new technologies, to provide literature appreciation activities, and to guide and encourage content and recreational reading to every student. And whereas lifelong learning begins and is systematically developed through the school library curriculum of the elementary and secondary schools, and whereas the school library program contributes to the individual growth and development of all students while fostering both excellence and equity in education. And whereas the media specialists of Garrett County have dedicated themselves to work for quality library programs for all students. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Garrett County Public Schools does hereby proclaim April 2017 as School Library Month in all the public schools of Garrett County and calls upon school administrators, teachers, students, and citizens of Garrett County to recognize and support this action and to participate throughout the month of April in the celebration of School Library Month. Congratulations.
Your photo.
Clearing out behind you.
Yeah, congratulations.
And I'd also like to thank Karen for getting all of our certificates together we have and our recognition. Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Framing it. Our next item, under new business, the GCPS Teats Foundation. At this time, we'll have Mr. Tom Clark come forward with an update.
Well, thank you. I'd like to begin with saying that I had the good fortune of attending the World Stride competition of the band in Alexandria, and it was incredible. There were 15 kids in the band in this huge concert hall, and they were able to make big sound and fill the place. It was a great tribute to the mighty few. I come tonight to announce that the Garrett County Public Schools Dr. Wendell D. Teets Foundation is finally open for business as of the end of January. Took a long time. We had some false starts. Thanks to Jim Murray at Rhoda Heber Associates, got us on the right track, got us through the paperwork. Thanks also to Mrs. Allison Schweitzer, who held my hand through also the paperwork. As of right now, we have the okay of the Secretary of State, obviously the IRS, and we've opened a bank account and we have $1 in the bank. Upon the recommendation of Rhoda Heber, we're going to wait until July 1st for an official kickoff. And we're doing that because our audit is also part of the Garrett County Public Schools audit. So it takes place at the same time. And Jim said, rather than muddy the waters for part of this year, let's just start clean with July 1st. So we have the press lined up. We have an office in this building, which I haven't seen yet. I understand it's bigger than a broom closet, big enough to hold a file cabinet, which is basically all we need at this point. And we will have a ribbon cutting when Dr. Teets can be here in attendance to cut the ribbon. Obviously, the board is invited, and the date is Friday, July 7th, this year, noon, here. So it's Friday, July 7th, and you'll be hearing more about it. And we're fortunate to have on our board, actually one of our officers is Mrs. McEwen of the Republicans, so we have a conduit right there for our publicity. The board's in place, officers are in place. Fortunate to have Mr. Woods now serving as ex officio as a link between Board of Education and the Board of the Foundation. There are 4 meetings a year of the Foundation, January, March, June, and September. They're open meetings. Everybody is welcome to attend if you can tolerate one more meeting. If not, we can send you the notes and keep you up to date. We still have to do a web page, and then we'll turn to Mr. Morris to have the web page linked to the Garrett County Public Schools web page. We do have, thanks to Mr. Gank and Mrs. Brewer, we do have an email account, foundation@garrettcountypublicschools.org. So it's pretty easy once we need it. So again, everyone is invited to the kickoff on the 7th of July. Just to sort of go into the nature of the foundation, since I have 7 more minutes, I may as well take at least 2 of them. Obviously, foundation's there to receive contributions that are going to be used as a supplement, not to supplant, but as a supplement to programs pre-K through 12. And that will be the first item of business, getting the word out. Not only getting the word out in the paper, but the radio, but also going around to various organizations, starting with the Teachers Association, A&S, and that sort of thing, to explain that the foundation is in place and what it means for us. Now, not only do we solicit contributions to go into a bank account, but also we can be a conduit for specific grants. Somebody calls up and says, I've got $1 million I want to give to the music department. It can be funneled through the foundation, go directly to the music department. If a teacher finds that there is a grant available for his or her program, but it has to funnel through a foundation, we're there. Now, this happened to us 5 years ago with Mr. Salisbury. He was offered $50,000 for the music program at Northern High School on the condition that there was a foundation to send the money to. And at that time, there wasn't. So anybody who needs to apply for a grant that is demanding a foundation through which to send it, it's out there. And this is the news that I really want to get out to the teachers and the A&S. That it's a two-part thing. Not only can you apply to our grants once we have money, but you can also look at other grants and use the foundation as a way of bringing the funds in. I'd like to see us be also, and this is down the line, a clearinghouse for information. We have a number of foundations already operating in our schools. You know, there's Samantha's, which is bringing money into the arts program. Colonel Riley has started a foundation for JROTC at Northern. Well, if somebody calls up with money for military, we can say, well, we have Northern, but then maybe they want Southern to be included too, in which case they give it to the foundation at large, but at least people would know. I don't see us in competition with other foundations, but in the era which we find ourselves, in which funds are constantly being cut, we're losing students, we need to do everything we can to bring in extra funds for the extra things that are such a crucial part of our programs. It becomes sort of an umbrella. It becomes an umbrella as a conduit, it becomes an umbrella over soliciting funds, and it's also already turned into an umbrella for a request for Northern High School for a scholarship fund. It's $133,000. They needed somewhere to park the money. So it will be parked in the foundation funds, but it will be taken care of strictly by Northern High School and their directors at Northern High School, which turns out to be legal counsel for the family, the principal, guidance counselor. But we serve them as simply, as I say, a place to park their money. I personally am shy about getting involved with scholarships for two reasons. One, scholarships are for after grade 12. All for scholarships, believe me. Any way placed as a parent, grandparent, paying for tuition. All for scholarships, but I want to focus, and I think the board agrees with me, on pre-K through 12. This doesn't mean that we can't help the others and help the scholarships, and that's where we are right now. So that's where we are right now. And did you hear my thank you?
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you again, because you've been such a great help. And are there any questions? People are asking.
Thanks for your work.
We go to press July 1st. But if anybody finds money before then, the bank account's open.
And I believe Mr. Carr will have a little reception here on the 7th after the ribbon cutting, just some cake or cookies and some
Water
refreshments
and chips and health food only. Thank you.
Mr. Carr, as you get your website functioning, you may want to consider a bequest page. A lot of foundations have language that they would prefer to see in a will. That way, hopefully, the estate planner goes to that page. Now and then, people are creative in their charitable bequests, which make it that much more complicated on how you can manage the money.
It is, but the thing is, the more money you have in the fund, the more it attracts money. That's one of the facts of life. So, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the budget, guys.
Thank you.
The next item is under policy procedure. It's EEVAA, vehicle use policy and procedure, and it's new.
Okay.
Yes.
Garrett County Public Schools currently has a fleet of vehicles used for the day-to-day operation of the school system. There's currently 21 vehicles in this fleet. However, there is no policy or procedures to go along with the use of that vehicle. So I'm here today to first present a policy and then present the procedures. By no means am I going to read everything word for word. I'm just going to highlight some of the important things, and then we'll kind of go from there. So the purpose, as I said, is to produce this procedures and operational guidelines to support this fleet. And mainly talking about cost-effective transportation to match their responsibilities, all the different roles in the school system. We talk about in the second paragraph that utilizing the vehicle for business purposes only and following the Internal Revenue Service guidelines for those vehicles. I should have prefaced this by saying everything in these documents is current practice by the school system. So I try to capture everything in here. So by no means is anything out there that we need to tighten up. This is pretty much the common practice. And where I came from before, this was a lot of the common practices also. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. So that's the policy. The administration is the responsibility of me, the Director of Transportation, to kind of oversee the fleet. And the last thing, it is a privilege, not a right, to drive a vehicle for Garrett County. So it's kind of all encompassing right there in the policy. So that's the policy for your approval. Okay. Any questions on the policy? So now we go to the procedures. We start with some definitions that are found within the procedures, and more or less lays out the responsibility from the superintendent to Director of Finance to Director of Transportation, and then the supervisors. Supervisors kind of are the key here because they're the ones with the vehicles, and we ask them to create some internal controls, making sure that the person's at least 18, the vehicles are secure, the keys are locked, prohibit personal use, know who's driving the vehicle at all times, and the proper budget request, so that the individual person with the vehicle really is the big proponent of this, to make sure that it's being used correctly, cleaning and that. And then we put HR in there. If there isn't a discipline problem with the vehicle, we want HR to be involved if there's anything that has to be done at that level. The assignments, when we talk about assignments, we're talking about, again, 2 vehicles. We have staff assigned vehicles, which are specifically tied to a person, and then we have a pool vehicle. When we talk about assigning permanent vehicles, we're looking at the job description of the individual. A lot of them have to do with emergency personnel, need to be called out in the evenings and so on. And we also look at a cost savings. As you know, we pay reimbursable mileage, and you kind of have to offset, whether you want to pay mileage or provide a vehicle. So that's kind of what a staff vehicle is for, and a pool vehicle is assigned to the department. And again, it's for a person to use a vehicle as needed, deliver lunch, so on and so forth throughout the day. But the vehicle stays at a park location on school property, and it's used for that. The guidelines are the 10 guidelines that we asked of the employees when they're in a vehicle or driving a vehicle. Pretty self-explanatory in terms of school system employees are kind of people driving them. School system business only. We ask that they operate the vehicle in a manner not to expose us to some liability, follow the traffic laws, all those kind of things. It's very important if there are accidents that they need to cooperate and provide some of the information. And again, no alcohol and controlled substance, so on and so forth. So those are the 10 things that we expect of the individual driving. And then the last part is, for each department, just kind of a description or a justification for the vehicle in each division.
Do we currently have any staff assigned vehicles
Oh, yes.
that's assigned directly to that person on
Yes.
full-time?
Yes, transportation and maintenance. Yes. And we do follow the IRS in terms of, they take the money out of the check, all those kind of things. So we do all that. Any questions on any of the procedures for vehicle use?
I just have one that it says, under procedures number 2, you go down A, responsibilities, and down to 3, it says request and distribute fuel pump keys. So we have that then for these vehicles?
Yes, we get our fuel from the county.
Okay.
So we get the keys for the access to 3 pumps here in Oakland and Accident in Grantsville. So we put the request in, and we get the monthly log from them. We pay for the amount. We do get fuel at a reduced rate with the county because of the tax factor. So it is more cost effective for the fuel. But yes.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? And again, this is our first view, so next month that we went back to be voted on. Our next one looks like contract breakdown, route miles, and grade policy.
Yes, this is relatively old. I was trying to do some history on what this applied to, and the routes, the school bus routes in Garrett County in the past were actually paid on the grade. And Ronnie has an old altimeter and they would actually pay more money for the grade of the route. He showed me a breakdown sheet, like you go 1.2 and miles at this, and it was all done based on that, kind of a history thing. Well, we don't do that practice anymore. And also, we talked about in the last one about a dirt road factor. We just don't use these practices anymore in terms of transportation. So to me, it's outdated and not necessary. That's why I brought it for you just to retire it.
Right. And if I see the date, it says it was 1984.
Yes.
That's when it was.
Last revised.
So you're asking to retire?
I'm asking to retire.
Because I certainly couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Looks like the next one is reimbursement of drive for field trip on county-owned bus.
Also for retirement.
Yes.
Up for retirement. We don't own any county buses, so therefore it's not needed. And this is just talking about if you've got somebody to drive a bus, that's how they'd be paid. But like I said, we don't own vehicles, school buses, so.
And then I guess same thing for the next one, county-owned vehicles available for field trips.
Correct. So I'd ask that also be retired.
You have another one to be retired, off-highway loading and unloading zones for school-sponsored extracurricular activities.
And my understanding, whether it was an activity route or a bus coming back from an activity, they were allowed to make stops, that the board wanted to control where the locations were, they were safe. So this was put into place. Again, we don't use that practice anymore.
What practice do you use? Do you allow them?
We allow kids to go home with parents after their activity, if there's a parent present, or they have to ride back to the school and get picked up at the school.
So the bus doesn't stop anywhere?
The bus doesn't stop anywhere. But the majority of them, I know it's for my son's baseball at Southern,
They sign out.
They sign out and we take them home, so sometimes the bus goes back relatively empty.
Because I read that some of those places aren't even in business anymore.
No, no.
Piddles Griddle, Prince's Hammock.
So,
Yeah, unfortunately, a storage.
I don't see this being a practice going forward, so that's why I asked you
Right.
that it's retired.
Understandable. And to my understanding, next month, we vote on it also.
Yes.
All retirements,
Yes,
yeah.
for the retirement.
And I've asked each member of the cabinet to really look at policies that are outdated, bring those forward, and I want to thank Mr. Wazlowski publicly because obviously he has read them very carefully, and I appreciate your time.
I'll be back a few more times.
There's still more, right, exactly, so.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Our next policy is IHBA, Special Education Policy. And we'll have Ms. Raybolt.
Right, good evening.
Good evening.
I have two policies to look at. The first one is just for first read for you, number IHBA, letter, sorry. And really this was this was adopted in 2002, and there's some things in there that the language needed updated. So really the main thing that needs change is obviously since infants and toddlers is now under Garrett County Public Schools, we wanted to add the 0 through 21 since that's who we do serve. And also, there used to be a handbook called Public Agency Standard Submission PASS, and that has been changed now to the Special Education Handbook. And we are required by COMAR to have this revised every year. And then of course, now that legislation is almost ending, we'll be updating that to reflect the new changes. So I wanted to make sure that we added that it was the Special Education Handbook that says that we would follow all state and federal law. It is very detailed, where this policy is very generic, referring to our handbook, which is common in the practice in other counties. We also added definitions. I thought it was important that we outlined all the different disability codes identified in IDEA. And then also we use the term developmental delay for children aged 3 to 7, and so we added that definition as well under there, and then what the term free appropriate public education means. So just to bring it up to date. Are there any questions on that policy? Okay. The next one, we are asking for retirement of this, and it's very outdated. It is not something that our current practice that we use. I think it was last updated, this a while ago. I'm not sure if I have. 82?
Yeah.
Okay.
Adopted and never revised.
Yes. So when we were looking at other counties, they do not have a policy like this. So what we are asking for is retirement. But it's very important that when you look at resolving disagreements in special education, unfortunately it does happen, and what the process is for a parent complaint. So I wanted to make sure that even if we would retire this policy, that you're aware of what our policy is in that process. We are required to have posted on our website, our special education website, our special education handbook, which I offered to print, but I gave you guys the pages that really meant something as far as a complaint, procedural safeguards for due process. So you do have that in your supplemental on board docs. But also, we are required at every IEP meeting to give out the parental rights booklet, and we have parents sign off that they've received it and it's in their native language. And one thing that we added this year is on the very last page, and you should have this also in your supplemental materials. But in the last page, we also have free and low-cost legal services that we offer to the family in the event of a dispute. So we have, there is a very strict process. If we are in an IEP meeting where parents disagree with the team, we must stop the meeting. We must read the supplemental material that I provided to you starting on page 18 about this is what you do if you disagree with our team. So we have that. It's also posted on our website in English and Spanish. So it is a very strict process in the event that there is a dispute. However, I'm asking that we retire that outdated policy. Any questions? Okay. Matt, did you have a question? No? Okay.
Also want to thank you very much for being here.
Sorry. I have a sick little guy, so thank you. I'm sorry.
I tried to give her a pass for this evening and she wouldn't take it. So I appreciate very much.
Thank you.
We are ahead of schedule. We have public comment at 7, but we'll just keep going and we'll watch the clock at 7 o'clock. We can go make sure if there's any public comment. Okay.
We did need to amend the agenda to discuss the budget, remember? Because we didn't vote.
Yeah.
So we might want to, we could do that now.
Okay.
I believe we have to vote to amend the agenda.
What was the budget?
Budget request, commissioner request.
Do I have a motion for agenda, to amend the agenda for the budget request?
Make a motion to amend the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passed to amend the agenda. And you'll put that down, Karen, correct? Thank you.
To come forward, board business. Are we doing that under board business?
Continuing or board or?
Did you want to do it now?
Well, our next agenda item is the discussion of health curriculum video, and Dr. Lauber isn't here yet. So I thought we could either go ahead there, or we could move our discussion to continuing business and just do it right before. So that would be now, right before the health curriculum video. And that would be
Mr. Lauber's not there. Down here.
He's not in here yet, but if we moved it here,
All right,
we could
yeah.
add it here under continuing business, and we could bring Ms. Schweitzer up for the continued discussion from earlier.
Okay. Charlotte, Matt, so, okay. So Allison, we'll have you come back up, please. Back to our budget discussion.
Is it possible to put up your first slide
From tonight's presentation?
Correct.
I think Mr. Bank can do that.
Yeah. Second slide, my apologies. Yes, this one. And just remembering from earlier, you know, we would like to provide Ms. Schweitzer with some guidance from the board this evening regarding your request, just to bring people back up to speed. At the last meeting, this board did vote unanimously to make the full request of the county commissioners of the superintendent's recommended budget. I understand you did meet with Commissioner Edwards.
Yes,
that impacted our discussion this evening, and we did receive an additional $456,000 from the governor's initiative, and so that would bring our figure to an additional $1.5 million over maintenance of effort. And that's where we left the discussion, because some of it was impacted by some staffing that we needed to discuss in executive session. I believe we've answered those questions for Dr. Sorber, and so we're ready to proceed with if we want to continue with the same request of county government, or if we want, you know, we need to provide her with direction before she can do the budget worksheets.
Any more comments or discussion?
I think we need a motion to take the motion from the table from earlier. So
Okay.
make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
The original motion was,
The table
It's
first.
Tom's motion is, but we have to vote on the motion to take it back up.
Right.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion is brought back.
Then we have a motion on the table.
And now the motion, now we can discuss the
Now the
The
motion.
motion table.
Right.
And would you repeat that?
Yeah, our motion was to accept the superintendent's budget reduction proposal to reflect asking for $1.504 million in excess of the county's offer, I guess.
Above the maintenance of effort.
Do I have a second?
That motion was already made.
Well,
That's
okay.
just clarifying.
Right. Do we have any more discussions?
My only discussion is there, have we satisfied providing enough guidance in regards to the capital budget request at this point? Just because we talked about that at length, and are you fully satisfied with? Okay.
I believe so. And I believe we understand the priorities. Yes.
Any comments or discussion?
I guess, I have a comment.
Okay.
My concern is that the $456,000 that we got, there's no guarantee, just like the $1.3 million that we got last year, there was no guarantee on that. That went down to $456,000 this year. And, you know, we've got another year coming up before the new formula that we're supposed to get as far as our money from the state is going to be looked at. So possibility there'll be a reduction in that next year as there was in that this year. My understanding, I think, from our president, Mrs. Rinker's conversation with the president of the county commissioners, were that they were not in favor of adding additional monies. And of course the 1.5 is down from the 1.9 that we initially asked for, but it still is going to leave us in a position next year, if we don't receive state monies, that we're going to have a much larger deficit, it seems like to me. So those are just some of the concerns that I have moving forward with the 1.5.
Any other concerns or discussions? Do I have a motion to send over to the county commissioners in excess of the maintenance of efforts, the one? Oh, we have a motion. We discussed the second, so we just did a favor. Okay, sorry. All in favor of sending over the amount to the county commissioners, the revised fiscal 2018 that we have. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passed to send over to the county commissioners.
Thank you.
It's not time for public comment. Alice, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I just want to make sure that you understand that the 1.5, I just want to make sure I
Yes,
understand
that's fine.
what we're doing, or what you're expecting me to do. The 1.5 is the request above maintenance of effort.
Correct.
However, the capital items
Projects, yes.
are not included in the 1.5.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure that we were all on the same page.
And my understanding as well was in our request, we will include those prioritized separate from that.
Correct.
And labeled as capital projects.
The discussion was, I think, from the commissioner's side to our side, was that we should ask for that
Correct.
outside of our operating budget.
Which they were hoping would be at maintenance of effort, but is not. So you're asking for 1.5 plus the capital now. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Schweitzer. And as you know, this is again, quite a bit of work, and I do thank you for that. And the entire cabinet.
We'll have Dr. Lawver come up. Our next item is the health curriculum video. And this evening we will be taking an action on it. And it has been out for public review and comment for 2 weeks. Have we had any?
No, there has been no written comment as of the deadline, which was noon today. And I will check with Mr. Morris, nothing on Facebook or any social media in response to the video either.
Ms. Seabolt, you?
Yes.
And I
came-
also.
Yes, I came in and viewed it, and it's sort of selling products because we got it from a certain company, but other than the product selling, it seemed fine. Okay.
Yes. It's revised compared to one we had was the children were different clothing and it's more current with.
Yeah, the information is really the same as the old
Yes.
one. It's just-
Yes.
Right. I think it's still good that we're showing the separate ones. I think at that age, that's better. So that was part of the decision too.
And our nurses still are a vital part of that, so that they can answer any questions that the children may have about about their puberty and their development, exactly. So that has been a practice that I think has been very helpful.
I make a motion to adopt the Always Changing and Growing Up video to be included in the health curriculum for 5th and 6th grade.
Second.
Is there any discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passed. The new health curriculum video. Did you have anything else you would like to add? We kind of didn't let you speak. Sorry.
Yeah, you kind of cover it all. I'm glad we're able to update that because it does make a difference as students are viewing it, that it looks modern and definitely understand. I think that 5th grade is a good time for us to do those lessons. And having the nurses do it has worked very well. So thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
She left. Time for a report.
She must be looking, make sure there's no
She
public
must be
comment.
Louise still.
Yeah.
Nothing, okay.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear our student board member report. Thank you, Cheyenne.
So because our last meeting was so recent, not much has changed since the last report I gave. Northern Middle School continued their annual effort to raise money for Relay for Life by selling parfaits to students and staff. They also participated in the Down Syndrome Walk with exceptional participation from the entire school. Southern Middle School is working on putting together their spring musical rendition of Annie. They also participated in the Down Syndrome Walk with great participation. Northern High School's FFA team recently won first place in a regional competition and will be moving on to states. They recently also took their donations accumulated by their council to heart and volunteered there for a day. And Southern High School's FFA team won second in the regional competition and will also be moving on to states. Southern is beginning to sell their Easter candygrams and will be holding their second blood drive of the year next week. All councils are getting ready for elections to be held in late April and early May for next year's representatives and officers. And GCPS will be sending a group of students to MASC convention in Ocean City this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to learn valuable leadership skills and network with other councils.
How many were going? Do you know?
I'm not sure. From Southern, I know there are 6 of us, I believe, but we're also taking some from Northern High School, and we're picking up Fort Hill on the way.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Can I ask Cheyenne a question?
Yes.
Cheyenne, what would you do to help us with our budget?
Oh, goodness.
The reason, first I want to preface that by saying, for those of you that don't know, Cheyenne is now 24th in the nation among 56,700 students working on a budget. She's 24th in the nation. I got to think you got some good ideas for us.
I think the finance department is doing a wonderful job.
So you'll be a politician too, right?
Has aspirations to for higher politics.
You don't need to answer the question unless you want to. But I wanted to let everybody know. That's an incredible accomplishment.
That is it,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it really is.
Absolutely.
I'm looking for an intern next year.
No new hires.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, that would be
Told Mr.
non-
Ratty
this is
this is
a
non-paid.
A voluntary internship.
School career.
That's right.
Thank you for your report also from Southern and Northern too. Next item is our committee assignments, which we did these back in January, but there's some that Mr. Carr was representative to, so we have those vacant, so we didn't know who would like to fill them in. Dr. Swerber, would you like to be on any of these committees? Would you like to?
All I'm going to say is it seems that Dr. Carr had a very focused area on the MABE committees. And I don't know if we should assume that just because I took his seat, that's a natural switch.
No.
But I mean, wherever there's a critical need on either the health advisory or whatever.
FNS is the Food and Nutrition Services, and the Health Advisory, they meet as needed. Like, for instance, when we wanted to adopt the video, we would bring together that committee to review it first or to bring recommendations to the full board. so that they don't meet too terribly often. Now, the Food and Nutrition Advisory Council, we are looking to make that a more regular meeting, just because the prices continue to go up and the participation continues to go down. So that might meet a little more frequently, but certainly would love to have you as as a representative on both of those committees.
Now, the Health Advisory Committee, I'm also the alternate for that, and they might meet 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
It's just depending on the item. Now, there'll be a meeting coming up before long. They anticipated on having one this week, and then we got an email, something come up, they're going to change the date. So there'll be one of them soon.
Yeah, I'm happy to take on.
And then we also have the Ethics Panel. Matt, you're on that one. Have you met with that one lately? No? Okay.
That's also a kind of an as-needed.
It's supposed to
We also do have a couple of vacancies.
Hickory. Is that what, once a year, Charlotte, normally? Do you know? They meet the Hickory Committee?
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
Yeah, there's going to be a meeting soon on that.
It's this Friday.
And then he invited us to come see the new walls painted.
If you want to be the alternate on that, that would be a good opportunity. I'll keep the assignment, but then so you could find out about Hickory and what's going on there would probably be a good if you have the time.
Yeah,
So we've got one coming up
I just don't
soon.
see that one on here. Is that the?
It's the HEE, the Hickory Environmental Education
It's
Center.
abbreviated.
My daughter's there today, so she'll
We're
also.
still back on. Yeah.
Yes. that's
That,
fine.
the alternate.
That's fine.
Okay, that would be good. And the food service.
That one he said he too.
Right.
So we have the Internal Policy Committee alternate.
Right, we have
we meet during the day with staff usually.
every month.
That one is monthly, but that one we do try and work around the schedules so that everybody can be there, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to have an alternate. It's up to you.
Can I hold? It's just get it in my
It doesn't
schedule
have to
and
be
see.
you. Yeah. That's why I don't know.
Yeah.
Fucking in a rush right now.
And that one actually, with you working where you're at, might be easier for someone else.
Right. And since we do try and work around your schedule, we could probably.
Typically, it's not a
we could leave
problem.
it vacant.
I'll volunteer to be the alternate.
Okay.
The MABE committees, we really didn't have those covered until Mr. Carr had a tolerance of driving to Baltimore 3 times a week, bless his heart. But actually, it's Annapolis, right?
Annapolis, most of them.
Yes. The budget and planning, Matt, you've got that. You're the alternate,
I
so
am
would
the
you move over to that? But
I
the
don't
conference,
know.
the conference planning is, we could have a person on it or not. It's going to
Yeah,
be
those
in
are
Ocean
optional on
City.
some of them.
Federal relations, nominating. The only one they really like, legal services, and we've got that one. But budget and planning, they like to have somebody from each county on that also. And legislative is almost over.
So we have Mr. Woods as the Internal Policy Committee, the alternate, correct? For the Ethics Panel, Dr. Sorbert, did you want to be on that one, you said, as the alternative?
I didn't say that.
No, okay, which one? The FNS Advisory Council?
He said the Hickory.
He will be the Hickory, okay.
The other two.
Well, the Health Advisory, I would move up to the assignment, and then somebody want to be the alternate.
He said he'd do that one.
Oh, that's what he's going to do, okay.
But if you want to be the I'm sure he'll.
We still have a vacancy here, but
No, that's fine.
don't know very often, so I don't think you really have to have an alternate. I think you're okay. Because they meet so infrequently.
Right, well, you can put me there behind that, that's fine. So we have all the positions filled in. Thank you, everyone. Our next item is the upcoming events, board member rotation, and I believe it's being passed around.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that we can sign up. And some of these, they like the response, especially if they have to plan for seating or for food. Should we say?
Well, it's just things like the FFA Awards banquet that I mentioned earlier, middle school success night, the retirement dinner is coming up soon. So all of those things are everyone is more than welcome to attend.
Yes. And as those are being passed around this evening for the board members to sign if they are able to attend. Our next one is our May board meeting. We're going to have to change it. Some people will be out of town. So, would May 2nd work for everyone to meet here at our normally scheduled time at 4 o'clock? Charlotte, yes. Matt? Yes. Cheyenne, is that what? Yes, okay. Do we need a vote? Do we need a vote? I don't think we need a vote, do we?
We typically, if everyone's in
I
agreement.
don't think, okay.
But then we also have to discuss the following.
Yes.
That'll be the regular meeting then?
Yes, our regular meeting will be May 2nd at 4 p.m. And then we need to have a special budget meeting because to my understanding, we'll have our budget sheets, correct, Allison? May 2nd. Then we need to have a special budget meeting to approve the fiscal 2018 operating budget. So allow for time to review the sheets and if we have any additional questions.
And I believe that one you'll be calling in. We'll have to prepare for a call-in.
Yeah, if it could be a little later, like 7 would be best for me, if that works for everyone
On
else.
the 9th?
That's what it says.
But if that's so.
It's fine. It's fine with me.
If I have the.
So 7 and you'll call in
Mhm.
on the 9th.
You can ask that publicly. I believe they said they wanted a week if I'm hearing your question correctly.
Well, I just suggested, if I have the budget worksheets, because now we're talking about a month out. If I have the budget worksheets on board docs a week in advance
Of the 2nd, I'm sorry.
of the 2nd, yes, of May 2nd, would that be adequate time in order to be able to vote on May 2nd?
Then you
And
would
that
have to
way
have an
we
extra
wouldn't,
meeting.
Correct.
you wouldn't have to have an additional meeting just to vote on the budget worksheet.
I think I'd be fine with that, and we could ask questions via email and that type of thing if we had it.
Sure. Fine with me.
So you would have the budget sheets available in 3 weeks. So you would have them available in advance of April 25th,
Yes.
which would give the board a week to review the budget worksheets and then approve them at the regular meeting on May 2nd.
So I would have them on board docs no later than close of business on the 24th.
Okay. So they'd have a full week to review.
Less meetings,
Monday
better.
the 24th.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes?
Yeah.
Charlotte, is that?
Idea of the night.
So how do we handle if we have questions?
Direct your
So
questions.
everybody knows the question and
Right,
We
direct
have
your
to make sure we
questions to
reply all.
me, and then we'll get your answer and we'll reply all.
So by the close of Monday, April 24th, we will have the budget sheets. Now, will they be in a binder for us to pick up here, like we did before? Or even just like a 3-ring binder we've had before?
We can do that.
That's what we've done in the past, is why I'm asking.
Okay. I thought they would just be electronic, but.
Electronic's fine for me.
Okay, let's do
There's
that.
some that-
Who would want actual printed copies of the budget worksheets?
I do.
Yes, and you're okay with electronic? Dr. Sorber?
Yeah, electronics.
Electronic is okay with you?
I'm not be back until second, so it has to be.
Electronic. Okay. All right, so we'll make 2 copies, and that will save.
And then,
I'll let you know.
yes, Karen has let us know before in the past and pick them up.
Okay.
And then at, excuse me, our meeting on May the 2nd, we'll allow time for discussions, if there's any more discussions.
Oh, absolutely.
And that- Anybody else have anything to add to that or any further? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's pretty much it. I'll move it back to the we can go on recess for 15 minutes just to make sure nobody comes at 7. There shouldn't be. There should we?
And which time? We have to move back to executive anyway.
You can start at 7 for the, and then just.
And then to make sure there's no
establish
public
recess till
comment.
7.
Yes. We're going to recess our Board of Ed meeting now at 6:48. And then we will come back into session at 7 p.m. and then go into executive session. Yes, and that will allow for public comment if anybody comes at 7 and then go into executive.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Before we go into executive, I will ask if Cheyenne will make sure that no one else has come for public comment, since we did public comment at 7 p.m. on our agenda. Any public comment? We don't, because we already recessed. We don't need a motion.
No, just a motion to return to executive session.
Yeah, that's what I
I make a motion to return to executive session to finish our earlier business.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? At 7:03, we'll go back into executive session, and we will have Mr. Swift